Hi everyone, welcome back to Source of Success. Today we are honored to have คุณแพมประนับดาพรประภาจิรธิวัฒน์สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคน
As our guest today, she is the founder of Dragonfly 360, the director of Siam Music Yamaha and Siam Design Sales, and she is also the chairwoman of Parachute. So without further ado, please allow us to introduce ourselves.
So hi, my name is Tanya. I go to ECMA International School and I'm about to be a senior and I'm pursuing a career in dentistry.
Hi, I'm Sayne. I'm a rising senior at ECMA International School and I'm interested in the medicine and healthcare sector.
Hi, my name is Bokpon Wisaha Panit, but you can just call me Man in short. I am a rising sophomore at International Community School and I am particularly interested in the STEM field despite being open to exploration. Given your work regarding Dragonfly 360, I am really inspired by you and I hope to learn more about you. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity.
Yay. So I'm Hilight Phornprapha and I'm currently a rising junior or 11th grade student at the same school as mine, International Community School or ICS, and my interests ranges from digital journalism, business, and also the wellness and healthcare industry. So I look forward to learning from you today. Yep.
Seems like I have more to learn from you guys. Amazing.
Okay, so let's start. Could you maybe give us a little overview of your line of work and your roles a little bit for us, please?
So my name is Pam, and when people ask me what do you do, I always stutter a bit because I guess at the end of the day, I'm a bit of an entrepreneur, so I touch upon very many different things, like you mentioned. If you're talking about the family business, I'm CEO of Yamaha, which is a music school, and we supply musical equipments to the country. I also look after the automobile sector, distribution of Nissan automobiles, and I'm also a creative director of an interior design firm called Dragonfly DWP. We actually designed 10 floors of this new building that we're sitting in, along with other work that we do. So that's the creative side that I'm dabbling on. And then there's the fashion business, which you spoke about, which we import luxury goods into Thailand, brands such as Christian Louboutin, Missoni, and Berluti. And my latest passion or baby is called Dragonfly 360, which is a platform to empower people to transform their lives through mind, body, soul connection. Our whole tagline is called Lead Well, and I think what we've done has not really been done before. Usually people do leadership summits or they do wellness summits. We've merged the two, and that's why our tagline is called Lead Well, because we feel that good leaders, or actually great leaders, actually need to be well in the mind, body, and soul space.
So we actually know you have like many different businesses with many different positions, such as your positions in Siam Motors Group, Siam Music Yamaha, or Dragonfly 360. So we were just wondering what these various positions entail.
Oh, okay. Depending on the company itself, right?
Yes.
So which one should we start with?
I mean, like you said, your baby, Dragonfly 360. We can
that one? Okay, so like anything that's younger, it requires more work and requires more time. You can think of like a 2-year-old child. They just require more of your attention to formulate it, to vision. Like the vision is coming from me and our two founders, Woody and Cindy. So because of that, the vision takes time, crafting it takes time. The team is more or less new, and Hilight's one of our interns. So it just takes more time, and that probably takes up a lot of it right now. Whereas a company such as Yamaha, which you're sitting in the office, we're a 70-year-old company. So I've got like a team that's been put in place. It's got roots that run on its own, and it's also a joint venture. So it's basically, we take what Japan, Yamaha has given us, and we distribute it into the Thai market, but we always have to adapt it and localize it into the market itself. Same with the fashion companies. That's been around for 15 years for me, and I have my best friend is the CEO there, and so she runs it more or less, and that's why I've stepped, I guess, up to be chairwoman of that. And I just look at new brands, potentials, and business strategies on that. And that's kind of more or less what I do for every single company that I run as well, except for the design company where you're the creative director, and that's just something that I love. I did a second degree in that, and so that also, in a way for me, I do the creative direction for it, and then I hand it off to the creative team, and they execute it. And that's kind of what I do for most of my businesses. So it's strategizing, and then the team runs with that. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
That sounds amazing. I don't know how you juggle all these responsibilities. So, where do you envision yourself making a meaningful impact in around 10 years?
In 10 years, oh my goodness, I hope to be on a beach doing nothing in 10 years. That's a very interesting question. I feel like something like this is very impactful because in 10 years' time, you guys are going to be the future and doing very impactful things. So I love doing interviews with young, I wouldn't even call you kids. You guys are like full-grown young adults, let's see here. Because impact truly can't come from me alone. It comes from building inspiration and a team and just being able to touch lives of other people so that they can make a greater impact. So for me, it's Dragonfly 360 is one of those platforms where, I'm not hoping just to build impact to 2,000 people who come to the summit. The 2,000 people can go and make impact to their own circle of friends or companies or groups or families or so. So it's never about me. I feel it's always about the greater cause. And because I am a huge advocate of gender equality and of wellness and well-being, probably through my own experience of A, working in a family business that is predominantly male, B, in an industry that is automobile manufacturing, predominantly male, and the third one, C, is I work a lot with a very male-dominant culture, which is Japan. So most of our companies, our family businesses, work with Japanese as our partners, and they are an extremely male-dominated company. So I call it the triple threat, and which therefore has caused me usually to be the only female in the room, oftentimes experiencing a lot of, I guess, not mistreatment, not for sure, because when you're a leader, but there have definitely been instances where I can walk into a room and because I'm the only female, they think that I'm the secretary. So they say, "Can you get me water?" And so there are definitely biases, and also having to adopt very male traits in order to be heard has caused me to almost become so imbalanced in who I am as a person that I've had to shift back and find my feminine energy because that was the only way to survive. So gender equality has always been like something that I advocate for, and I hope to see, although it's a very, very slow process from what it seems, by the time that all of you are working in the field that things have shifted more to a more gender equal platform. Yeah.
Yes, I think in order for us to collectively achieve gender equality, that takes time, and it's usually a gradual transformation towards it. And I believe that the summit in this October, the Dragonfly 360 Summit, will have a profound and seismic impact on society as a whole, shaping leaders and preparing them for the future and also for the status quo, because we're ultimately breaking these glass ceilings that have been set for us.
So in 10 years' time, I hope to see that the summit has caused more leaders to actually advocate for that.
Yes, for sure. So I would like to ask you regarding your background, education background. How do you think your experience at Brown or these very prestigious universities shaped you into who you are today?
When I went to boarding school at 15, in an all-girls school called Dana Hall. And when I went, I remember my mom was the one who pushed for me to go. And my dad basically turned to my mom and said, "You better not let anything happen to her." Because we, as a family, we don't come from an educational type of background. My dad barely graduated from college. My mom went to a 2-year secretary. So education was never something that they pushed or strived for. So when I did get into an Ivy League Brown, my dad was all like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Like they've never even heard of it.
Yeah.
But as he was speaking to other people, he was like, oh, this is quite an important school. Huh? So it didn't faze them.
Yeah.
Wait, your question is, how did it impact me?
Yes, how did it shape?
I realized it's not where you're going, but it's the 10 people you're hanging out with is, I think, the more important thing. So when you are hanging out with a bunch of people who are go-getters, type A's, very ambitious, wanting to get ahead, you almost become like them. So I do feel that, you know, your friends and who you hang out with, the 10 people you choose to spend the most time with, have a huge impact on your life. And fortunately, when you go to schools of that degree, you are hanging out with your friends are people who are extremely smart, very ambitious, and want to get ahead in the world.
Yeah.
And so that rubs off on you. And that definitely rubbed off on me because I was not a very hardworking student, in fact. But when you see other people, you know, working hard and spending their times doing things that are meaningful, it has a big impact on you. And every school is very different. Like, they're not going to like me saying this, but usually the saying is, people who go to Harvard want to rule the world. People who go to Brown want to change the world. And I do really truly see that happening. Like, people that I go to college with to this very day, one of my best friends in Singapore, like they all want to actually make some form of impact in the world. So I do contribute a lot of what I've been through, both with the all-girls boarding school, Dana Hall, and going to Brown, probably the reason that, you know, it absorbed and caused me to start Dragonfly 360. Yeah.
That's really great to know. And we've watched a bunch of your past interviews, and and we noticed that you talk about leading from the middle. We'd like you to maybe expand on that a little, what it means to you and what it can mean to other people who are watching.
Yeah, I think in the past generation, I've watched my father lead. I've watched a lot of other leaders lead. Like, I think in the past, it was very much you lead in the front and you pull people behind you just due to the industry as well. Like, we're talking very different times then, right? It's faster to lead that way. Let's lead, but it's also way more exhausting because you can imagine, like, especially when you're pulling a lot of people up in a bad economy, it's tough. So what you really want to build are frontline leaders who understand what you're doing and then try to drive the message all the way down to every single level, and which is what we've been trying to do because it's less exhausting that way, right? If you really think about it anywhere. If you've got people in your team who completely understand your vision and your mission and what you want to do, it just makes it that much easier and allows me to do more than just one thing. Because you asked how am I able to do other things, right? And I can tell you, like, my priority is in 3 buckets. It's family, which I have a son and a husband, and my family, which is extremely important to me. Work, which is extremely important too, and yourself. People often forget yourself. So the 3 buckets have to almost be equally balanced in order for you to operate at a very optimal level. Because if you forget yourself, taking care of yourself, resting, sleeping, the basic necessities, eating, exercising, you know, you will not be able to operate on an optimal level for the other 2 buckets that are extremely important. And people have been asking, how do you do it all? I don't. Anytime I spend time with one bucket, the other 2 get neglected. And that's just the honest truth of everything. Whatever you choose to spend your time on, the other 2 things get neglected. But it's a choice that you make, and it's something that you always have to mindfully pull back and say, where do you want and can you spend your time today? Because we all have the same number of hours. And so that's why, going back to your question, the team is so important. If you are able to get your team to operate on your behalf, then you can split your time more efficiently.
Okay, wow, that was kind of motivational of it. So, speaking of operations with Dragonfly, right? So you actually evolved it from DEI, or like diversity, equity, inclusivity, into like a leadable style. So could you talk about that a bit, or like what exactly motivated you into making this shift?
So I believe oftentimes there's a saying, when things don't go your way, it's often a higher being's way of protecting you or giving you a gift. We started out as a women's empowerment platform, and then COVID hit. And because COVID hit, we weren't able to do summits for a good 3 years. And so we had a team and we decided, what can we do with this team? And that's how we shifted to diversity, equity, and inclusion training. Because at that time, you could still, after COVID had came, like, what do you call it, mellowed down a bit, we weren't able to get 1,000 people in a room, but we were still able to operate with 50 to 100 people in a room. And I'm a strong believer of strong partnerships. I don't think that we can do it all. And there are oftentimes people who can do it better than us. So if you're an expert, say in STEM, or you're an expert in whatever field it is, it's way faster to partner with them and springboard their platform up quicker. And that's what we needed to do at that point in time, right? We couldn't hold summits. We weren't geared up for virtual summits. So we found a partner in Singapore who'd been doing DEI training for 8 years and was an expert in their field. And we said, how do we get Thailand to be more aware of DEI corporate training? So we partnered up with them, took their training, localized it, and therefore started just training companies at a time, 50 people, 100 people at a time. And that's how the DEI training of it started. And it includes things like unconscious bias, inclusive leadership, safe and respectable workplaces, HR policies. Those are our main trainings there.
Do you feel like there was like a swift change, like especially with the stuff that you've been doing for these companies? Do you feel like before you came into these companies, was the environment not that good with diversity and equity, especially in Thailand?
No, I think it was more that they weren't aware of it.
That's true.
So it's quite a new topic, I would say, whereas sustainability has been around for 10 years or more, and people get it. Whereas people don't quite understand what DEI is. A lot of people don't even know what the acronym DEI stands for. So it was really starting from scratch and just getting them to understand what it is. And a lot of people have unconscious biases, and it's absolutely fine because we're human, right? Humans just have biases in general, but it's more letting them be aware as to how they can actually catch their biases and not use it to, especially in the workplace, to favor certain people or to discriminate against other people. And we didn't say that it was a bad environment before, but I can say that it was a much better environment afterwards. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Like, I really love how you adapted to different circumstances. And I also really like how you acknowledged that it's actually the lack of awareness that is contributing to like the bias, that it's not actually an intentional thing. It may be, but sometimes it's just lack of awareness. Yeah.
Exactly.
So looking at your current occupations, it seems like Dragonfly 360 seems to differ from your other lines of work. So what was your inspiration for that?
I was living in New York pre-COVID in 2017 to 2018, and I took my son to live there. And I just attended a summit called Women in the World. And I was thinking, you guys are singing to the choir. Like, you guys in America, especially in New York, we're talking about New York City, right? You guys have it good. Like, there's awareness in terms of biases. The Me Too movement was huge there. And I was thinking, this is great. How do we bring this to Asia in an Asian context? Because I think not everybody resonates with the way different countries or different cultures empower women. Like, it was very, I think in the West, it often tends to be very outspoken, very aggressive, very, this is what I want and stuff. But Asians, especially Thais, aren't that way. We're a much different culture. So it was more doing it in an Asian context. And like I said, localizing the content is extremely important. I came back and I realized so many different women are facing the same issues that people in the West are facing, but nobody really had the capacity or the ability to pull a mass group together to do what I would say like is a summit and a movement. And so I was lucky enough to bump into Cindy, and I was lucky enough to bump into a lot of other people, and we just said, let's do it. Let's just uncomfortably just do things that we've never done before. But you have to have a level of comfort, which is why when you ask, what do? I think entrepreneurs tend to have an ability to not fear failure. And that ability to not fear failure just allows you to just trial and error and do things to get it done. And we just had a vision, or I just had a vision. And I said, we're just gonna do it and see where it goes with that. And that's how Dragonfly 360 started. And also with my own personal journey of what I told you, just being with a lot of men all the time and realizing it made me so imbalanced in my own leadership style. And I kind of wanted to shift it back to a more feminine approach to that, and yet had no clue. But the journey itself allowed me to get there. So it wasn't like I told myself, this is how I want to be, and I took a bunch of courses and I tried to get there. It was just more an awareness while doing things that, oh, this is not where I should be. And as I did the summit, I needed to walk the walk and talk the talk. And so therefore it allowed me to explore a whole different set of channels, which is why this year's theme is actually called Heal. It's my own personal journey to heal from the wounds of being so masculine for so long. And I often think that a lot of times you have to, it's the leader's personal journey that has to transpire into what you're doing in your work. It's like an artist, right?
Yeah.
An artist's work is always their own expression of who they are, what they want to do, the pains they've gone through, the wins they've gone through as well.
I think you're definitely practicing what you're preaching by like incorporating the Heal Summit and like transpiring that, as you've mentioned. And that's such a commendable journey to be able to like overcome your fears and really conquer them in like hosting this summit, which is a very challenging process, as you can see. So I would like you to briefly share with our SOS community about like Dragonfly's mission, vision, and what you like your outlook of it.
So you're a very inspiring person and probably a role model for many people. So what advice would you give to, women who may want to follow your path or maybe struggle with the unconscious bias in their careers?
I think you guys are way inspiring, by the way. Like to spend your summers interviewing and working. I think you guys are like next generational leaders for sure. But for women who struggle with unconscious biases, the first thing is to be aware of it and to really go back to, because all of us are very different. Like some of us are very comfortable leading in, say, a more masculine role, and some of us are more comfortable leading in a more feminine role. But it doesn't matter. At the end, it matters on what makes you comfortable and your leadership style. And awareness of that is most important, that you stay true to who you are. Because you will be criticized no matter what as being too soft or too aggressive or too direct or too slow. It doesn't really matter. I just feel like as humans, we are all put on this earth to find our own identity. But make sure that it's your own way of leading and not what somebody else has told you that this is how you should lead. And that I feel is the most important thing there.
Yeah, so like before we move on to the next question, I think we might have to circle back to the vision of Dragonfly.
Oh, yes.
Like, I think we kind of like forgot about that a little bit at some point. But yeah, I would love if like there's
You should be able to answer this, Hilight.
Yes, I was looking into like your personal take on this particular baby, because there are like some official like missions and visions, but is there like a personal point of view or perspective that you
So this personal baby has become a huge monster lately. And we're talking about a regional movement here. And we're talking about coming at a time where I personally feel there is way too much information being thrown around. And I don't know, you guys may see it amongst your friends. I see it amongst my son's friends. There's way too high of a level of depression and anxiety and suicidal attempts and whatever it may be in young teenagers these days. And heal comes from harmony, empower, acceptance, and love. Because at the core of it, that's what everybody needs, is a sense of belonging, and all that takes is to be seen. People need to be seen these days, but not on social media, not on TikTok, because the next epidemic, I don't know if you guys are aware in the US, is loneliness. So we are more connected than we are ever before, and yet people are lonelier than ever because of the way we're being connected. And my vision and wish for Dragonfly 360, the 2024 summit, whose theme is heal, is to foster true, meaningful connections amongst one another in order for you to actually be seen, even if it's for 2 days, and in order for you to start on a healing journey if you have already not. Because I feel like all of us need some form of transformation in order to be better, in order to feel loved, in order to feel seen, and in order to be able to empower the circle around you. And that's why we call it the Dragonfly Circle. Because I can only do so much, our team can only do so much, but with 2,000 people there, we're hoping there's a snowball effect that you can spread it to your siblings, to your parents, to your community, to your boyfriend, to your work, to whatever it is. And if there are more leaders there that are running organizations of 5,000 to 10,000 people, you've got like a critical mass of people who have the ability to make significant change in their own circle.
So actually getting into the topic of the HEAL Summit, could you actually share with us the journey of coordinating it?
Oh, we're still in the journey. The journey has been an interesting one, I can say. There have been a lot of ups and there's been a lot of downs. And, you know, I don't know if you know a little bit of my background. When I was 6, my father basically almost lost everything. So his motto, which is on his book, which is hung on our house, everywhere, is nobody is perfect. And with that, it drills into us that you don't need to achieve perfection. You just need to learn from your mistakes. And it's only when you make mistakes is when you actually sit and reflect and learn, how can I improve and do it better? So the journey has been an interesting one. Thank goodness I have my 2 co-founders, Cindy and Woody, who all provide different strengths in the journey itself. Everybody is a master of whatever they do there. And the team too is a new team because our last summit was 5 years ago. We have a few of the old core members, but the team is new. So it's getting that team together to understand the mission. And also the mission shifted, right? We've shifted from gender equality now to leadership and wellness. So it's getting everybody on the right path to understand what our core values are and to lead that way. And wellness is also something that is very important right now and very new. And we start meetings off with meditations per se. And then weekends they go, I hear the team goes and they do breath work and sound healing and all those things to make sure they're grounded, because it's a very tight timeline we're working on, and so it's high stress all the time. And so everybody has to be able to take a step back when they need it to ground themselves and make sure they're not burning out before the summit itself. Yeah.
I also agree that we learn the best from our mistakes.
Yes.
And also, it seems like such an intricate process. I feel like everyone in the team put a lot of thought into coordinating this summit. Therefore, we would like to ask, because we did some stalking work.
Great, I love it. I love it.
We see that a percentage of the proceedings from the tickets will be donated to the Anti-Human Trafficking and Child Abuse Center. Is there a particular reason why you chose that organization?
I want to say yes, but really, honestly, it was accidental. But it is a cause that I feel right now, especially if we were talking about within Asia, for this to still happen, it's quite tragic. But it also hits on all the points that we care about, which is women, because it's a women's institution foundation that we're funding, and then also inclusion. Like, can you just imagining an being trafficked? It's you get pulled out of your comfort zone. You're thrown into an area where you have no control over, and that I think is probably the part that is the most painful. Everything that's happening right now with Myanmar as well, I think is very relevant, and we see a huge increase in that. But more just, I think oftentimes people give attention to causes that have a lot of attention on already, such as the UNDP or UN Women or even WWF. And we just wanted to pick a foundation that people need to recognize and be seen, because they're not something that people have really heard of, but they definitely need a lot of support and help. Also, we built a church in Pattaya, and then we also built a temple in Pattaya. And so I was actually looking to build a foundation for battered women in Pattaya, because we have a lot of land there. And I talked to one of the brothers at the church there, and they said, look, this is a foundation that has already been set up, so why don't you look into what they do and just support them, because they've been around already and they definitely need help. And so that's how this came about. So back to the partnership part, right? Which I strongly believe that, why don't we just partner up with somebody who needs help, and visibility is what they really need. Because I think a lot of foundations have a lot of visibility. And for me, it's not about a lot of times you're spending 100 baht, but only 20 baht goes to the people who really need it, because of all the administrative work and all the marketing and everything that's needed. Like, I see you have the UNDP like there, Sustainable Development Goals. Yeah, so it was more just, we bumped into them, we spoke to them, they needed visibility, they needed funding, and we said, let's do it together.
Yeah, so like speaking of the summit and like the vibes is like about the summit as of now. So I would like to ask you to like kindly encourage our audiences in the SOS community to buy tickets. Today's the last day for the early bird tickets.
Today's the last day for early bird tickets. You guys qualify for the student tickets, which is just 5,000 baht versus 15,000 baht. So I highly encourage all of you. What you will get is a 2-day immersive experience, which is not just talking heads and people speaking to you. You'll be able to foster connections. You'll actually be able to go through the whole journey of connecting to yourself first before you connect to other people first. And I, honestly, for the first time, I think in Asia, we have not ever had this amount of high quality speakers in one place in one time. So just that alone, oftentimes people are like, oh, maybe it's a bit expensive. Oh, maybe I don't have the time. All that. I highly encourage everybody. This is an investment on yourself, whether it's your time or your money. It's an investment on yourself in order for you to lead well, in order for you to lead better. And I can speak from my own personal experience that investing in yourself is the best thing you can invest on. I think oftentimes as a culture, we don't even blink an eye about spending 1 million baht on a car or whatever, 10,000 baht on a bag, and those fancy, hard to get drop shoes that you guys are all the rage. But people don't prioritize investing on themselves, which is the best thing that you can do, because no one can take that away from you, whereas everything else is materialistic. Right?
That's really great to hear. Next, we want to talk about your success with your years of experience in various fields with different positions. We want to know like how you would describe success or define it.
Well, thank you, first of all, for saying that I'm successful, because I think people may see that, but I've failed a lot, and I would define success as an ability to get up from your failures more than success itself. Because too often times you see people fail and fear doing the next thing, fear doing the next project, or you can even talk about life, right? People don't succeed in their marriage and they fear loving again. They fear stepping into a marriage again. And you see it with how people raise their children. They're always like, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. They fear their children falling and failing. And that is not helpful, because we do need to fail in order to be able to learn from it. But it's, how do you pick yourself up? How do you keep going from that? How do you learn from that mistake in order to not make it the next time? If you continue to make that mistake 2-3 times, then I'm so sorry, you're not going to succeed. The key is, and you see that a lot, you see people doing the same thing expecting a different result, and that is just insanity. You think about it, not sane. That's what you call about it, right? It's really, how do you pick yourself up from that mistake? And for me, that's success. It's learning from it and continuing to move forward, because that's all what it's about, right? It's life. It's about continuously moving forward. So I hope that answers your question there.
Thank you.
So we also wanted to talk about like mindfulness and wellness. So we know you have many different positions in many different companies, but how exactly do you juggle all these positions while also maintaining your health at the same time?
So that's a very good one. I personally have tried everything. Like literally everything legal and everything illegal. But at the end, for me, what works best is meditation. It's simple, but you do it I do it every single day. It's habit forming. The first, 3 years were like, it took me so long to get into forming a habit, but it's a little bit like exercise. I don't know if any of you guys do some form of exercise. Once you do it and it's habit forming, when you don't do it, you feel like something's missing. And that's the same thing for me, for meditation. And like I work out as well, almost every day, I would say. And when I don't do it, it makes me feel like I'm lethargic and I'm not doing my best. And it's the same with meditation. If I don't do it, I feel like my mind isn't truly clear. So I would encourage everybody to start. It doesn't need to be half an hour. It can be 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. Even my son now has it on his agenda. He's starting out 5 minutes a day, and I'm super happy with that. But at least it's ingrained in him to start out with, because you get very overwhelmed. And by the time you hit my age, it's like your phone, that is, the storage memory is full and it's short circuiting. All the time, it starts. Have you ever? Your phone starts lagging. Your phone starts like, things don't work because you filled your brain with so many things that if you don't sit there and cleanse it out from time to time, or hit that reset button, you compare it to the phone, or clean up button, whatever apps you guys have right now, it doesn't work. It doesn't. You're not operating at an optimal level.
So aside from managing your health, do you also have tips for managing your time, like time management tips?
Yes, get a very good team to help you manage. I have two very, 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 I talk to them more than I talk to anyone. My EAs, my executive assistants, I call them my boss. They manage my time for me. But I also, to answer your question, it's learning to say no to things that don't sing to you. And that was a mistake that I did growing up. It's like you get a bit like FOMO, like you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to do whatever.
I get it.
Yeah. but for now, when I make decisions, even casual decisions, like do you want to go for dinner? Like, if this isn't gonna sing to me, and if I don't like you 110%, I say no. And even doing things like, it's so easy to get caught up into doing things because you can. People are like, do you want to do this? You want to do that? You want to invest in this? You want to invest in that? Right. So my only strategy now is, if it doesn't sing to me, like honestly, like to my heart, I say no. And I would say that would be my advice, is just learn to say no more often to manage your time. Because like I said, we all have the same amount of time. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad Source of Success sang to you.
like talking to the next gen because you guys are the future, and you guys are the people who are going to truly make a difference in 10 years' time.
I mean, I do agree that it is really difficult to say no because even I always say yes to like every single thing. And so I should definitely learn from you.
You still have the energy, I think.
So,
Yeah.
so when we're so engaged in work, sometimes it's difficult for us to like, hey, we should take a step back because we're so like into it. So how do you like determine whether you should take a step back or not?
Do you guys believe in energy?
Yeah.
And you can feel certain days you wake up, you have a lot of energy.
Yes.
Other days you wake up, you don't have energy. Or you have energy when you wake up, and then you end up being around a lot of people who are energy zappers. This is something you need to be aware of. Energy zappers are people who drain your energy.
Yeah.
And it happens. You know, you encounter different types of people. You know when your energy is low is when you need to take a step back. And oftentimes people are not in tune with their body as much as they should be. And I think it's very important that all of us are in tune with our bodies. I think especially in a generation where we are so connected all the time. It's like basically the phone is an extension of your hand right now. And that is an energy drainer without knowing it at times. So it's just being aware and being able to feel and recognize when your energy level is low. That's when you know that you need to take a step back.
I totally agree that we have to like set clear boundaries and know like where are the energy zappers so we can like really keep a space from them, or maybe like just understand where they're coming from and why they're doing that, like encouraging them to meditate maybe, because I think meditation really is like showering. Like I think you gave this analogy before. It's like very refreshing and rejuvenating at the same time. It's like drinking a fresh cup of water. I think I've tried like meditation, going to these camps before. I really enjoyed it, doing it with my friends, although it might not really align with like our generation's interest as much, but I think it's like an emerging trend that is like upcoming, and I think we should like learn to be more adaptive to like, the new trends.
You know, I went to a monk in Bhutan who's actually coming to our summit, and he told me instead of meditating 30 minutes a day, meditate 1 minute 30 times a day. And I was like, oh, so interesting. So it's basically, as I'm drinking my coffee, it's just mindfulness, right? A lot of people think of meditation as this big, scary word where you gotta go and sit in your hole, and you know, that's intense. But if you just think about it as like mini breaks throughout the day, where you just, it's like you said, just like splashing cold water on your face throughout the day, then it doesn't become so daunting anymore, right?
Yeah, I think it's also about like having the courage to really slice your time up and also really make it more digestible and bite-sized. It's like eating a piece of cake sometimes. So to like beautifully wrap this interview up, I'd like to ask you to share with our SOS community a parting advice for our generation or maybe like future generations.
I would say connect with yourself more by disconnecting with your device more. And you know, I grew up, I know this is going to age me so badly, but I grew up in a generation where we didn't have that. And I think what you guys are doing is so beautiful. Just getting together here, having this meaningful conversation, having this meaningful connection. I would highly encourage you to just unplug more. Put your phone away from the dinner table. Take detoxifications from your phone, because I think being plugged all the time can be very good, but it can also have serious repercussions on your mental health. The other advice, if I'm allowed to give too, is to continue what you're doing. You guys are doing something that is so admirable at your age, and I wish there were more of you. And so just continue doing what you guys are doing, because I think it's great.
Thank you so much for your unwavering support and your time. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you guys. You guys are awesome.
I hope you guys, SOS audiences, gained so much invaluable insights from our interview with our honorable guest today, Kun Pam. Don't forget to come to the summit, buy the tickets, get your tickets right now to become healed and transformed in this journey. And don't forget to click the like, share, and subscribe button, guys. See you in our next interviews. Bye.
Thank you.